So there's just been a massive amount of things going through me in the last few weeks,
Right.
and I want to give it a bit of context because without the context of what's going through me, it's going to be hard to catch the frequency of today. It's going to be hard to catch the frequency at all of what we're doing,
Yeah.
right? Um, Now, the major shift in my recent current way of thinking has been to do with the idea of Hermeticism and alchemy, right? Because they very much tie into this more so than you probably realize at this point in time. Yeah.
Mm.
Let me see if I can find something. Bear with me while I'll cut this part out of the video while I
Sure.
stumble and fumble and look for something. But let's see.
Why are you doing that? I'll just quickly send Sam a message to confirm time that I'll pick him up.
All right. Let's see. See, I've got to log in now. I want to read something to you though.
Okay.
Hmm. And if I'm clever enough, confirm. Yes, it's me. So even I have to jump through my own hoops. It really is me. Okay, try again. Yep. Okay, library. I'm going to do a quick search for the term alchemy.
I'll probably come up with about 30 odd things.
Yeah, but there's one specifically here called Notes on Alchemy, and this was written by Leo in 1972, I think it was. Mind if I
Okay.
read it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, all right. And forgive me because I'm gonna have to scroll back and forth with my old man eyes, so I'll play the part well. Uh, Alchemy meant and means the study of the chemical nature of the laws. Understand that alchemists of the Middle Ages, by inversion, discovered and came to understand the laws. They were seeking a dual result in their striving: immortality and transmutation of chemicals into gold. Their reasoning said that if gold force is real, then by their causing it to manifest in the physical world, for there is always a link between the two, there would be a surge of power inducted, which would be uh, soul building and enhancing, as well as intellect expanding. But as in most things, the real motives were lost by the coarse motives of those who came to deal in it. There are three kinds of dispensation. One, conscious, which is lance like and whole. Two, semi conscious, which gives a more dispersed dispensation. And three, unconscious, which is depleted. The three kings or wise men and the gifts they bore, they were the holders and receptors of cosmic information. Jesus could connect with their frequency and tap the cosmic sources. They were containers of issue for Jesus: gold, the alchemical arts; frankincense, the occult arts; and myrrh, the deeply hidden arts, which I would actually probably, if I were to write that today, I'd probably say something like esoteric, right? You got the
Mm,
alchemical, the occult, and the esoteric aspect of things. Now,
mm.
um, it's funny because I don't remember reading that. Maybe you do. It's in the Journey,
No.
Volume One, right? It's in the Journey, Volume One. It really
Is
is.
it really?
It really is. Yeah.
Blimey.
It's
No.
amazing the stuff. It's amazing the stuff that's in the archives that we just kind of, if we're not ready for them, don't see. Yeah. And I was in the process of doing some work on the archives today and came across it. Yeah. As I was pushing things to the site, right? I came across this. I was like, wow.
Yeah. When Journey 1 was originally released,
Yeah.
was it released in small bits?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. So
Yeah.
those that originally received it, because they were getting it one paper at a time,
Hmm.
would have a better chance of getting not just the wash of it, but actually being able to see what was actually written.
Yeah.
But if you get a whole big thing about that thick, yeah,
Yeah.
it is literally like you can't see the wood for a trace.
Yeah. True. And also there has to do, especially in a tome like that, there has to do with the it amplifies the notion of what a person is ready to see. Hmm?
Yeah,
I'll tell you, when I first read The Journey, Volume One, yeah, um, the poetry in there, Leo's poetry, about made me gag. Right, I just couldn't do it. Just couldn't read it. Couldn't do
mm,
it. Wasn't into it. Yeah, skip, 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 skip. Onto the
yeah,
law of three, onto the ray of creation, onto the man woman mystery, onto man the machine. All of these sorts of things, right? But I couldn't do it. Now I go back and I read those poetry aspects, and they're deeply profound, right?
yeah.
They really are. But so right, despite myself, I saw this this morning, and I thought, wow, this is actually right on track as far as the signal goes. The Eamon, or the Fourth Way, for that matter, or esoteric Christianity, for that matter, really heavily borrows, and not borrows. What it does is it encapsulates and codes the understandings that are available to one in alchemy and Hermeticism. Okay,
Mm,
so the shift in focus is not to divert us from the trace of the way. The shift in focus is really to get us to the point where we can do what Leo did. Yeah. Now, I have a proposition for you, because one of the things that's important is that we begin to take these lessons and these ideas and say, right, where have I seen this in the real world? Yeah.
yeah,
Where have I seen this in nature? Or can I reproduce it in a laboratory, or in my kitchen on my stove? You see, those sorts of things. That's the point, because we need to be able to do. Knowing is one thing. Eamon 1, 2, and 3 was about knowing. Yeah. I'll call this Eminent Way 3, which is what we're doing today. It's about doing. Yeah. So that we can get to the knowledge by what we do, what we're able to accomplish. And so that's what I'm chasing.
mm,
That's what I'm after. Okay. We're not diverting focus. We're changing the approach so that, um, well, so that you can do what Leo did. Really. Now, excuse me, I'm going to untuck my shirt because it just doesn't fit having it tucked in. I need to
okay,
be more free sometimes.
yeah.
Okay. I'm not a bum or a slob, but sometimes you just got to be able to move freely. And I keep feeling that it's like tugging on me in weird ways. Um, flitting about the Eamon has been this idea that Leo kind of, appeared out of nowhere, completely developed, completely enhanced, right? And was, as a teenager or a young man or a toddler for that matter, writing about the law of three and lecturing, and it's nonsense. It's nonsense. And I point to nature. I'm going to point to nature and ask you to give me an example of something that shows up on this planet already formed up, right? Something organic, something living. It all starts as a seed. It all
Mm,
starts at the beginning, right? Now, you've all heard this, and I'm not sure exactly how it goes, but it's basically along the lines of this: that God can't beat a full house with a pair of aces. Or, I mean, yeah, well, sure, a pair of aces or a pair of deuces, I think is how it went. You see, if you play poker, you know that a full house is going to beat the pair of deuces. Yeah, it's because there's laws. It's because there's rules, and those rules are around us for us to observe. And so if you look around in the natural worlds and you go, you know what, everything starts with a seed, and someone over here is telling me that this man appeared out of nowhere, fully developed, doesn't make sense. Right? Doesn't happen here. You just need to get practical with things. You can avoid 99.9% of the bullshit if you just try to verify it in the natural worlds. Yeah? If you can't verify it by the laws, there's only two possibilities. One, well, there's three, but the third one I'll tell you why won't happen. But the two major possibilities are: one, you don't understand the natural laws, right? So back to the laboratory of life and learn a bit more about them. Or two, if it doesn't conform to natural laws and you do understand the laws, then it's nonsense. Plain and simple, right? Now, the third one is that maybe God's in the process of changing the laws, and you better hope to hell that's not the case. Right? Because that's called a TikTok. You see, that's called a TikTok, where all of a sudden you're no longer under those 48 laws, and you better be able to catch up. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? TikTok, right? It's where the planet and sun switch roles. Yeah. Switching roles. I'll tell you, what a loaded word these days, right? What are your personal pronouns?
Switching roles.
Personal pronouns. Everyone's got personal pronouns now.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
All that stuff, yeah.
All that, yeah, right. My personal pronouns are his and bucket, as in, what's his bucket? No, you don't get it. Okay, well, it's an expression here. Like when you can't think of someone's name, it's like, oh, what's his bucket? All right, that's what we say here. Right? So those are my pronouns, his and bucket. You got to have an example. Anyway, so do you understand the trace? Do you understand what I'm after with reapproaching this work in a different way? 2024, right? How can it be the same old way? It's about helping all of us get in a position where we're doing it, where we're actually physically demonstrating it. Okay, and that's the reason for the beakers and the flasks and the pots and pans that you'll be using, those sorts of things. Okay, so no change, just different. Now, evolution, not change. Right? People think in the culture, people think that change is evolution. They think that because humankind's went from wearing, fig leaves to animal skins to three-piece suits, that they're suddenly evolved. Right? That is evolution in the making. It's not. It's just change. Evolution has to do with a level of consciousness and one's being, and we talked about this before. The definition of one's being is how much you can contain, isn't it? Don't the Gospels say, right? Jesus is talking to his apostles, and he's like, listen, there's a lot I have to tell you, but you can't contain it. Literally says something like that, right? Almost verbatim says that. You can't contain it because the level of being.
Is it just a containment, or is it being able to do something?
Lean forward for me. I'm having a sound issue, and I can't help it. So just lean forward when you talk, please.
Yeah. When you're saying about evolution being to do with what a person can contain, would it also be not just a containment, but to actually be able to do something with it as what it was intended to be used for?
Woof. Huge topic you just opened up there. You opened up the idea of wrong manufacture. Take something like the occult. Now, first of all, I will say this: the ability to do is implied in one's level of being. What one can contain, right, is implied that they can do something with it. If they can't contain it, of course they can't do anything with it. But yes, you're right from the standpoint. You take someone like I'm not going to bring his name into a meeting like this, but the fella that did this whole Thelema thing, you know what I'm talking about, right? Thelema, doesn't matter. Anyway, claimed he was the wickedest man alive and all this other type of stuff. Now, he actually had quite a bit. He actually had quite a bit of occult knowledge. He really did. Right? He could actually do things with it. but it was all wrong manufacture.
Yes.
Level of being, he had a bigger level of being than most people do, right? But he did something icky with it, disgusting, right? So yeah, you're absolutely right, and it does beg the question of what is right manufacture, right? What is the right works to be able to do?
That's why I put in about not just doing something with it, but doing something with it that it was supposed to be.
That's what I caught. That's exactly right. That's what I caught in there.
Yeah.
So here's the proposition that's on the table for you all. It's not necessarily after the first 11 or next 11 10 classes that remain in this, but as you get further and further along in this new discipline, right, that we're trying to enact, this new motif actually would be a good word for it, the new motif that we're trying to enact, that you're going to find yourself in a position where you are starting to do what Leo did. Right? Forget about Pierce. Who cares? Yeah, I'm a conduit anyway. Okay, but isn't that the point? Hasn't that been the promise all along? That if you walk alongside, right? If you walk alongside someone who's done it before, who's done the road or done the journey, that you're going to be able to do it too.
Yeah.
And I propose that after a little while of working in this kind of way, if I were to take you and drop you on a deserted island somewhere, that it wouldn't be long before you rewrote all the archives in your own way, right? That you could get to it on your own. You don't need to read about it. You can actually get there because you have the level of being that, that can contain something like that can generate something like that. That's the promise, or I should say, the starts with a P. I just can't find the right word for it. That's what's on the table. I'll just put it that way. Okay. Right. And it's always been said, but it's never, I don't think, been done. I do suppose some of those original 9 people that worked with Leo probably did it. They probably got there. But I don't think the majority of human people did. It's hard to say. And why is that? Do you have an inkling as to why that might be?
What's the audience of this video?
Well, they have to be in the Aten degree like you.
Okay.
So there might be some in the future, but just speak freely. If it needs to be edited out, I'll edit it out.
Okay.
All right. Due to technical difficulties, right? I can put a screen on there.
Oh, where do I start?
Now, come on, just jump in.
There's various things. The most innocent of which was the rapid flow of new work that came through.
Yeah,
that people struggled to keep up.
Yeah, but it's been 50 years.
Yeah.
Now, so what happened now?
Well,
go on.
There's too much possession.
Ah, right. Isn't there?
Me. Not wanting to pass it on.
Yeah.
Because how far do I go? There was a meeting in England where Leo touched on this, where he said that one of the biggest problems that the Union has is that officers don't do their work and they get overtaken by their students. My own experience is it's not only a case of the officers not doing their work, is that if they saw anybody that was likely to overtake them, they sabotaged them.
Sure. Yeah. And
They
by the way,
actually
Mark,
sabotaged them. Yeah.
Mark, there's nothing wrong with what you've just said.
Hmm.
All right.
There's a whole stack of stuff I could come
Yeah, I
up
know.
with.
This
But
is
that is the two fundamental things. People couldn't keep up with it,
yeah.
and people were sabotaged.
Yeah.
I suppose you could say the third thing that's important is that when the branch leaders had a view of an individual, their view was influenced by those people that were doing the sabotaging.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah. What do you think? You think I would be welcome back into the Eamon these days? With open arms?
I was thinking about this actually during the week. He's going to go, oh my God, why was he thinking that? But you know, when it was said by somebody that people that were going to that people had to decide, they either go to your meetings or they go to Eamon meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I was thinking about that in a week, and I'm wondering if how much of that was actually because it was your meetings, or because you were also doing work with Vercel.
Yeah, right.
And it wasn't so much you that they were trying to keep people away from.
Yeah.
But it was the work of
Ormond. Yeah.
Leo's number one son.
Yeah, Ormond. Sure, it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fine. All right.
Yeah. And from what happened in our experience, what's recently happened with a friend of ours who is has been in hospital now for 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because of what he encountered. It does not surprise me that there was a need to keep people away from the work of Ormond that you would be, that you at that time would have had some contact with.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is, you've not done the human any harm.
Mm-mm.
You're not now as involved. Well, you're not involved with Vercel anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So things have changed. And I don't know, there was a time when we wouldn't get emails about Zoom meetings. We're now starting to get them again. Mm. Not that we've been to any of those things for.
And by the way, let me just hit the pause button for 1 second, okay?
Yeah.
You don't have to decide, by the way, okay, between me and the Eamon or me and Vercel for that matter. That's never been a condition of this work. The only condition of this work is try. That's it.
Yeah.
The only condition.
There are certain things that go with Vercel that do not fit with other work.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So whether it's something that you've openly said or if it's just by the process itself, Vercel, it doesn't mix with what people should be mixing with.
I know.
We could go into this further, but
yeah, it's fine, right? It's not intended, is it, to bash Eamon or bash Vercel or bash anything, right? I'm just putting it out there that I, as a man, don't have a problem with whatever a person wants to look into and explore. It's fine with me, right? In the end, it's going to come back down to whether a person can actually do anything with it or not. Yeah, that's all. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But that's what I'm trying to say.
Mere speculation, unless
Yeah.
you can actually do something with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a person would be hindered if they are doing verse L.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And trying to do Emin or trying to do Eminent Way.
Yeah.
It doesn't mix.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Funny that it all started off in the same genre, didn't it?
Yeah, but different things got into different people over the years.
Do you want to know what it is? We've talked about man number 1, 2, 3, right? And I think I elaborated a little bit that it is the calcination, dissolution, and separation, right? For man number 1, 2, and 3, if you want to speak in alchemical terms. Then you've got man number 4, conjunction, right? This is when you should actually be able to bring all of those three aspects of the thinking center, the moving center, and the emotional center together into one. You have calcined them, you have cleaned them up, you have distilled what you needed to from each of these centers, and now you bring those forces together, called conjunction. Yeah? And this is when you get an astral body, like a real one, not astral content. Everyone has that, but an astral body that you can then stand beside yourself and have a conversation with it, literally, right? You get an astral body. Yeah? That's conjunction. The next step, fermentation. Number 5, fermentation. Man number 5 is connected to things. Man number 5 has things attending. Now, notice I'm not saying high grade, angelic qualities. Do you understand, right? It's just attendance. Now, it is possible for a person to become, to be a man number 1, 2, or 3, skip 4, and become 5. Did you know this?
No.
They can ferment as man number 5 without having done the work of 1, 2, and 3, and without having achieved number 4. And the problem with that is that they are connected, but it's what they're connected to. The reason why something will come to attend, and I would call it in many cases a jinn, genie, jinn, that type of essence. The reason why something will come to attend is because it can find them useful.
Yes.
Right? Because a jinn can't write books. A jinn can't conduct meetings. Yeah? A jinn can't do anything without a human to be able to process it.
Yeah.
To be able to put it out there. And so you can encounter a guru or someone who really has a great deal of esoteric information, esoteric knowledge, can speak, can talk the talk and walk the walk, as they say, right? But it's not them. It's what they're connected to.
Yes, absolutely.
You see, the difference is that if someone actually does hard work on themselves and goes through the first 3 processes to get to man number 4, when they step into the role of man number 5, what they're connected to is clean. It is clean.
Clean, yes.
Clean and evolutionarily inclined.
Yes.
Inclined towards evolution.
I need to say that how people have come across, in my experience,
okay,
at times, what has got into them is not clean.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And
let me put it this way real quick, because that's even happened to me, right? At times I go down a certain road, I connect to something, I run with it for a little while, and it takes me a while before, I start to like fill up and clog up and I go, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if I was a man number 7, I'm not. I'm not man number 7. Okay. I'm like borderline 5, 6, right? That's where I'm at with things. So I fuck up sometimes. Yeah.
It's called being human.
It is called being human, right?
Yeah.
But I have the assemblies in place that let me know, Pierce, you're going down the wrong path, and then I can clean it up and reset and get back on the track, as they say. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's important.
Yeah.
I mean, even Leo made mistakes. You can read
Yes.
some of these archives, you can go, gee, he wasn't on the right track with that one.
You see, to me, we were talking about this on the way down today. For me, it's not an issue that Leo made mistakes.
Yeah.
Because as the work went on, he corrected it.
Yeah.
What I have a greater issue with is people that do not want to accept that mistakes have been made. And they are the real danger to the continuing work of the Emin in whatever grouping they're currently working in. They will not entertain that Leo got things wrong. Despite the fact that Leo himself said that he got things
wrong. Yeah. In fact, I know that he said that, but I never once recall him saying that he was infallible. I never once recall. I've never heard someone say, in a meeting one time, Leo said that he's infallible, or that he doesn't make mistakes, or those sorts of things. I've heard the opposite. Right? Leo never promised that he got everything right.
Yeah.
He was just trying to help.
I mean, there's trying to help. This unfortunate thing that's going on between some Emin folk, that they're sharing old archives, they're sharing old tapes, and they haven't got the assemblies to be able to know what is right, what is wrong.
Right.
Yeah. And Ethra herself recalled all the old archives. She didn't say you can't sell them. She recalled them from the archive teams around the world, saying you can't sell these anymore because of there's so many contradictions, so many things in there that people haven't got codings for. If they try to work into something from 75 and haven't got the work from 74, the platforms, and builds an assembly for that work, she pulled the lot.
Well, can I say this then?
That explains why. And there's people that are sharing PDFs, sharing MP3s, quoting bits out of that and the bits out of this, and then saying, but I've pointed out to them, yeah, but hang on. How does that stack up with this? And then you can see what turns up on it.
Yeah.
The Emin fundamentalist.
This is the proposition. This is the key core proposition that is on the table before you today. Is that and NZ, you're really in a good position, right? Because you didn't have it's like going to grammar school and junior high or middle high and high school, and then realizing that you were taught by a bunch of clowns, right? By the time you get into college, and you don't know anything, you think you know things, but you don't know anything, and you have to kind of go back and correct those things. Enzi, you're not in that position. You didn't go to clown school. So good.
Yeah.
But the proposition that's on the table right now, and what I wanted to bring into this meeting is this, that the Emin education that you may have received is shabby in some areas, right? Is worst case or best case scenario, it'll get you nowhere. Worst case scenario, it'll take you a lifetime down the wrong path in certain respects. And so the proposition before you right now, and that I'm trying to bring to this this group, is this: that we go back and we do it right. Yeah? If we can't prove it, right? God, it used to be a catchphrase, right? Prove it, didn't it? Probably still is. Prove it, right? Everyone was encouraged.
Disprove it,
Yeah, everyone was encouraged to ask their usher to prove it, but no one ever did. Right? And if they did, they were shut down because the usher couldn't prove it.
Can I put something in on that one?
Yeah, but if I tell you something and you say prove it, I'm not going to waffle, okay? Because I'm not going to bring you stuff I haven't done. Go ahead, say something.
Leo tried to plug that gap with people that took groups who didn't know what they were talking about. Okay. I think it was around about 93, 94. He released a memo, and I think I've told you this before. He said, if you're taking a group and somebody asks you a question, don't bullshit them. Don't shut them down. What you should do is say, I'll find out by the next meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, that was for various reasons. One is so that people weren't shut down and all the consequences of that. But it also gave the opportunity for that person that was taking a group to do some work, go and ask somebody that is supposedly more developed, so that they can then learn about what it is that the question had been asked. So it then moved that person who's taking the meetings on. But
you said something.
It was the whole thing that he put in place, and it wasn't just released to those who were taking meetings. It was to the whole of the evening this was released. Basically, so that the people knew that if they asked a question and the person didn't act according to this memo, that everybody would know that they weren't doing things correctly, and that they need to do things correctly. I think it was around the time of the Acropolis Saga.
You said something in passing that I want to go back to.
Yeah, go.
You said so that they could go to someone more developed and get the answer, and
that
was really
a bit of emphasis on that.
Yeah, the fundamental problem though is that there weren't people that were more developed. There were people that had more knowledge, had read more archives, thought they understood, but there's a huge discrepancy or a huge distance between development, because a developed person would be able to ask the unseen worlds what the answer is.
Yeah.
Literally, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's happened to me before. We've got video proof of it, don't we? I mean, scads of it where we'll go down a territory and, you see me, I get that kind of look, right? When the unseen worlds are saying, here's what they're talking about, or here's what you should do or say, or, those sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an aspect of development. An aspect of knowledge is just like, which page in the archives can I turn to give an answer that will make them go away.
Yeah, and which is what I call an Emin fundamentalist quote in Emin scripture.
Yeah. So, okay. So anyway, that's what we're doing. All right, Mark, I know you got to go soon. So I'm not gonna work into, because it's just, a couple of us today for whatever reason. So I'll save this. I was going to work into the pentagram today a bit with you, but it's not what's around.
Yeah.
But this is the proposition. We start over and we get to the point where if you read an archive, you don't read an archive and go, oh, wow, interesting. You read an archive and you see the signal and you go, I know how he got there. I know how he got to what he got to. Okay. And that's going to require some knowledge. It's going to require, because, there's things that you just didn't get, right? Like this, for example, you see these signs all around the pentagram, right? You've got Mercury, Aries. I know it's an old version of Aries, Jupiter, Saturn, and Venus. Right? Those are the real 5 centers. You see, that's your actual pentagrammic alignment. White for Mercury, red for Mars, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to have to go and get Sam. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. All right.
Just before that, can you put onto the website the meetings that we had for each of the planets?
Yeah, they should be in
Not for general
2023.
use.
They've got to be in 2023. They're in the 2023 folder.
I didn't check that.
Yeah.
I thought that it would be in a restricted access.
I'm just keeping it simple right now. It's okay. It's okay if someone you know watches one of those and learns a bit about how to connect to the essence of Mars. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And anyway, 2020. Bye.
2020. I'll be back in about half an hour.
Okay. I'm not sure if we'll be here, but yeah.
Okay.
2023 for me was 50 years ago. Might as well be 50 years ago. Okay.
Right.
That's how much it's moved on. So let's
all right, that's great.
They can't get into 2024. Bye. All right. See you. Yeah. Okay.
Keep him talking. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep him talking. Right.
Keep him talking.
This is going to go down in the records as just a freebie meeting. All right. What I'll do is I'll extend it so that there's one more week at the end, or just cram a couple things into one. Whatever. We'll figure it out. But that's what this is going to be this time. Okay. All right. So, what do you need from me? You have a mandate, Hannah. You have a mandate to keep him talking.
I was hoping Enzi would help.
What do you make of all this, Enzi? Does this sound like the kind of proposition you want to be a part of?
I think this is the only way I do some work. I would have to do something that I can verify on myself. Otherwise, I don't think I would put so much time. It's important for me to be able to verify things.
Yeah, I agree with you. Isn't it funny how in the culture, an artist will go to school and study art, and they're expected to generate art when they're done or as they're going through it. A musician will do the same thing and is expected to generate music, right? A business major goes and learns about business and is expected to be able to put that into use in a business. And yet you can go on an esoteric journey and learn all kinds of things and never be expected to do something with it. Why is that? Right? It shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't be that way. Did you get your pots and pans, and did you try evaporating baking soda?
Yep, we did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true then, isn't it? Right? You actually did it. It works. Yeah, it works. If you're really clever, you can get one of these things. I'll tell you what you could do. Right? This is just boy, got a little dusty in time, but yeah, you know what this is? A little scale. It's a little scale, okay? And I keep this heart on it. If you have the reference, do you know the reference? The weighing of the heart. Anyway, I do actually keep the heart on there. The weighing of the heart and the afterlife. But regardless, if you really want to get clever with it, you get a little kitchen scale, you weigh it beforehand, all right, zero it out, weigh it in the pan and whatnot, and then you put the pan on the stove, let it do its thing, weigh it afterwards, and you know what you can figure out? You can figure out just what proportions of carbon dioxide and oxygen and water are in there. Carbon dioxide and water are in there by the difference of how much it weighs. You could actually come up with the chemical formula if you're inclined to do so. You could come up with the actual chemical formula of baking soda. Right? You would know what its parts are. I mean, there's only carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in it anyway. So if you're getting rid of some of the water, which you know to be H2O, You could go do the math and figure it out, right? Sounds like a mission for Sam, but you see what I'm saying? Where I'm going with this is you might, people use baking soda all the time and gain no personal development out of it whatsoever because they're not present in the process. Yeah? Someone like you puts baking soda in a pan and makes water and carbon dioxide, and you can then go, what in me is like this? Yeah? What processes are involved like this? Clearly, there's calcination and separation, isn't there? Because you're separating, I mean, it didn't evaporate all of it, did it? There was still, something left over. Not as much, but something left over. That's
we
that's
weighed,
yeah. Huh?
yeah, we weighed it beforehand and afterwards.
All right. Good.
And yeah, there was a difference.
Yeah. Did you see it steaming off? Sometimes you do. A lot of times you'll see it. Yeah.
I gave it a little stir, and we saw it steam off.
Yeah.
And also, when I stirred it, you could feel the difference that it was changing.
Huh?
And I mean, the color was still white. I mean, it didn't get burnt or anything.
You can put it in something like this. I don't know if you can see this, but this apparatus here, you can put it in. There we go. You can put baking soda down in here and cook it the same way, and what you'll end up with over here would be a little bit of water that you can then actually drink. It's very clean water. It doesn't have any contaminants in it whatsoever. Good. I'm so glad to hear that you actually did it. I really am. Because that's what this work is going to be about. Once you get on the frequency of it, it's not hard to try to then devise experiments to prove to yourself whether it's true or not. It sounds hard in the beginning, right? What kind of experiment would you devise to prove the law of 7, for example? Can you think of one? It's tough in the beginning, isn't it? But at some point in time, you'll come across a lecture on the law of 7. You'll go, you know what? If this is true, then I should be able to X, Y, Z, right? In other words, I'll point it back over here again. I'll give you an example. If you have one of these distillation trains set up, you don't need one, okay? But if you have one or had one set up and you just got done listening to a discourse on the law of 7, you would be able to go, you know what? I bet if I put rosemary in here and water in here and turn on the fire here and put cold water in here and let it run like a machine that it is, like the ray of creation that it is, that I should get something that would be equivalent to the plant's soul here. You would know it because you would be able to go, right, ray of creation, this has 7 steps, that has 7 steps. Ray of creation has a process. This is a process. The ray of creation eventually extracts, the spiritualized matter, the spiritualized aspect of things. Dough, fire, right? It's outside. First of all, is all dough. All dough is the note. Dough is the start of something. It's kind of outside of it. Ray, here, this water. This corresponds to the moon. You see, you put water in here. Yeah, ray. Me, and remember, me is the microcosm. This is where the shock of organic life sits. Right? The thin film of organic life sits at the note mi, between mi and fa. This is where you put the plant material. You see, it's all making sense. Of course, the organic material is going to go here because that's mi. Yeah. Now, one thing that's interesting is that this starts off as clear water, but ends up becoming first kind of murky green and then eventually a brown. No matter how careful you are to keep this boiling, some of the waste and excess falls back to the moon. Some of what can't be processed falls back to the moon, and it tries to come back through this again, and it falls back down. And this is what's happening in the aspect of the people that don't make the grade. You see, right? They become moon food. They have to go back down in here and try to steam their way back up into an organic life situation. Then you got Fa, the planets, right? This is the point of well, the shock, you see, but this is the point of separation between what's going to come back down to planetary and what's going to go back or go forward in the ray of creation to a solar type of environment. And what you'll see in here is sometimes you'll get this like plume of steam that comes up here and it condenses right at the top of Fa. And some of it begins to trickle down this way, and some of it trickles back down this way and has to reincarnate and try again. And it might trickle back down again, and it reincarnates and tries again until it gets over this threshold here, where it then can go on to experience a solar condition, you see. And then you've heard it explained before that the note sol sounds like do in our side or our lateral octave, right? And something that sounds like do means that it has to have a shock involved with it, right? It has to have that initial aspect to it. And so what you've got here is these little rubber hoses that I've rigged up to an ice maker because it needs cold water. So it needs cold water circulating in here. Yeah. So I took the basket out of an ice maker and it just makes ice, dumps it back into the water, makes ice, dumps it back into the water. And then I've got this pump like they use for fish, to keep water circulating. This little pump in there and just kind of continues to circulate that cold water through. I like this invention. I decided to do this. Yeah? This was my addition to the rig here. But regardless, you've got, again, the outside influence that you've been told about when you've had the lecture on the ray of creation, right? This outside shock needs to come in. And it then sounds do, re, mi, and reinforces me because it goes backwards, you see, up the ray of creation. And so now you've got something of this solar aspect sounding do, re, mi back. Yeah. You could have predicted what the outcome of this is going to be if you really understood the ray of creation. Or you can go the other way around and you can go, we're going to do spagyrics today, which just means to separate and recombine. Spagyrics, right? It's how you make tinctures and alchemical medicines and whatnot. I could just say, I'm going to show you how a distillation train works. And you go, right, I got it. That's really interesting. And then you try it, you look at it and you start to witness all of these different things that are going on. And you go, you know what? I wonder if the universe works that way too. You see, and then you could sit here and do this and then come up with the ray of creation. Or you can get a lesson on the ray of creation and then come up with something like this, a distillation train. It's the same thing, you see, if you know what you're doing. I'm going to put the camera back on me. So that's what we're after. Okay? We're after the ability to, if it's a law, it's going to have to work, right? It's going to have to. If it's a law of nature, you're going to see examples of it in nature. That's all we're talking about here. Once you get on that frequency, everything else comes to you. You can do anything with that. That's why I say you can sit on a desert or deserted island and figure out the ray of creation from scratch. Do you understand now what I mean by that? Come on.
I think I do.
Yeah.
I just wonder, is it useful to get into the frequency of a level that is higher up in the octave? Like I'm in a certain level. What's the point of getting into the frequency of something that I'm it's higher?
Yeah. Here, instead of starting with the ray of creation and a distillation train, let's say that I told you a basic premise, as above, so below. Now you could begin to substantiate that claim. If I say, listen, this is a law, as above, so below. If it works up there, if it works up in higher octaves, it works here also, just in a modified way. Then you can begin to go, yeah, actually, he's right. As above, so below. Yeah, it works here. It works here in the chemical laboratory. It must also be working in the cosmos. And then you begin to get revelations, which this is what this is. You see, you were always told thinking center, moving center, instinctive, emotional, and sexual center. Yeah. But you weren't told the as above, so below aspect to it, where I say now you've got Mercury as the thinking center, for example. Talking about the planet Mercury, it is part of your constitution. You're a microcosm of the solar system, for example. And so you have a Mercury in you. We tend to call that the thinking center because that's what it does, you see. And you have a moving center in you, which is Mars. That's part of you. You can talk about that Mars, or you can talk about this Mars, or this Jupiter, or this Saturn, or this Venus, those things. But that's completely revelation, you see. And when I stumbled across this, I didn't learn this. All right, I figured it out. And when I stumbled across this, I went, really, Pierce? It took you, 40 years just to get that far, just to figure that out? I mean, it's so bleeding obvious, isn't it? Once you start to work it, you've done the work to the planets. You understand, don't you? You understand that what Mercury is like because you've connected to it. Yeah. God, it's almost embarrassing that it took me 40 years to figure that out. Won't take you 40 years. I'll give it to you so that then you can come back 40 years later and come up with something just as obvious that we all should have known. Yeah, that's the point of this. And the Power of the Mind archive, doesn't it have, right, the Egyptian headdress with the sun or the Kath star at the top, and then you've got all of your planets, kind of going around. I can send you a picture of it. It's what shows up in your aura because that's how you're made constitutionally. It's part of your constitution. And of course, the silver and gold is the moon and the sun, respectively, and the mental body and the higher emotional body, respectively. Gold. Silver and gold. Wow. All sorts of things we can begin to do with this. Right. Well, it's been like a drink from a fire hose today, a little bit. All right, and I know Mark wanted to still see me here when he got back, but I am feeling like it's time to pull this to a close today. Are we okay with that?
That's fine,
yeah. Okay, good. Right. So again, this wasn't a lesson. This was just a let's get together and chat sort of thing, and we'll continue on. We'll actually work into probably the pentagrammic structure of things in depth the next time. Yeah, because you need to learn things about that, like how if you have too much force in your moving center, it will destroy your ability to think, and if you have too much force in your thinking center, it'll destroy your ability to be creative or to procreate, for that matter. If you've got too much going on here, it destroys your emotions, and if you've got too much going on here, it destroys your instincts. Yeah, do you understand what I mean by that? Yellow, you got too much going on in yellow. You're too emotional. It begins to override your instincts. Think people with suicidal ideations, for example, right? They've got so much going on emotionally that it suppresses their natural instinct for survival. Yeah, it's all in there. It's all in that diagram, but we'll go into it next time, all right? I'm just giving you a little bit of food for thought so you can begin to tinker with it in your own time. And Hannah, I will fix that video, okay?
That's great, thank you.
Yep, good. All right. Be well until next week. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you for
Bye
today.
for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.